Anybody out there?
And now, live from Manchester,
Hello to you all from the north.
Definitive rock parody. Sadly, much too little seen over here. You'd think it'd just be run around on television all the time. A big cult in America. It was made in 1978. It was first aired on BBC Two, March 27th, and it was made in conjunction with NBC Television by Eric Idle and Neil Innes, and it was a spin-off from a TV show which people don't remember anymore, which is Rutland Weekend Television.
I just thinking, as you said it then, actually, you can see why it's big in America. It's the American dream ticket, isn't it? The Beatles and Monty Python.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's the dream combination. For
everything they ever wanted, everything they love about England into one 65-minute package.
Right. Apart from Benny Hill.
Okay, so what happens is that there's a 65-minute TV special called All You Need Is Cash and a spin-off album which is, you know, now available on import CD. The whole thing in America was produced by Lorna Michaels, and then went on to do Saturday Night Live. It featured cameos by Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Mick Jagger, Paul Simon, and of course George Harrison, who was the only one of the Beatles who kind of gave it his official thumbs up by appearing in it. This is, to me, the natural predecessor of Spinal Tap. It's become a huge cult in America. I was just saying, when that record was playing, there's a New York label called Shimmy Disc, who in 1991 got everyone on their label to contribute to an album called Rutles Highway Revisited, in which they cover the Rutles songs, which are themselves pastiches of Beatles songs. And in 1994, Neil Innes played a gig as Ron Nasty and the New Rutles, and he is apparently now working on a sequel to the Rutles all these years after it first happened. But they actually played a gig in America. And, Amy Mann apparently has also been encoring with Cheese and Onions, which I think we'll hear a little bit of later.
Right. Yeah.
So, just in case you don't know, here is the basic Rutles. And I'm sorry if this, you know, like when you were a kid and people used to watch Monty Python, and the next day you'd be on the school coach and they'd just be reciting all the lines to you, and they'd be doing them badly, okay?
Lemon curry,
that's right, yeah. This is a debit, all that stuff. And I'm sorry, I'm going to quite shamelessly do this, just to give you a kind of quick run through Rutles history. You have to understand that, like Spinal Tap and like like Monty Python, this is the kind of stuff that people learn and recite and get to know the gags. Okay, so brief Rutles history. January 21st, 1959, Ron Nasty and Dirk McQuickley meet at 43 Egg Lane, Liverpool. They're later joined by Stig O'Hara, who's the guitarist of No Fixed Ability, and Barrington Womble, who's the drummer, who, if you remember, changes his name to Barry Wom. He changes his name to save time and his hairstyle to save Brill Cream.
Wasn't it No Fixed Hairstyle?
No, he was No Fixed Ability.
Oh, was it? Which was the No Fixed Hairstyle?
No, there was No Fixed Ability was a guitarist, but Barry Wom changed his hairstyle to save Brill Cream.
Yeah, okay.
Do you want to get into a trivia fight?
No,
about this
not
on the very
especially.
first
No, well, probably.
Okay. They were sent to Hamburg by their first manager, Arthur Scouse. They played 15 months in Der Ratkeller, and at that point, of course, there was a missing fifth member of the Rutles, which was Leppo, he couldn't sing, he couldn't play guitar, but he knew how to have a good time, and for a young lad in Hamburg, that was more important.
Yeah.
And Leppo disappeared when he crawled into a trunk with a small German Fraulein and got lost in transit. Back in Liverpool, 1961, signed up with Leggy Mountbatten, of course, the famous entrepreneur. He was a chemist from Bolton. He was working with some other acts at the time. He produced the Bigamy Sisters, and of course the legendary French answer to the Beach Boys, Les Garçons de la Plage, whose first album, Nous Sommes Les Garçons de la Plage, failed to chart even in France. Took them into the recording studio. The Rutles' first album took 20 minutes to record. The second took even longer. 1965, played to 10,000 fans at Shea Stadium, named after the famous guerrilla leader, Shea Stadium. 1966, started making films with Dick Lacey. See what I mean?
I know, yeah.
Films with Dick Lacey. Made a series of films: Hard Day's Rut, Ouch, Tragical History Tour, Yellow Submarine Sandwich, and of course Let It Rot. But the thing that was most important was when their career went from like early pop, when they had their first their first EP, which was a Twist and Rut, which had Rut Me Do, Twist and Rut, and Please Rut Me, all on one single. By late 1960, they had made Sergeant Rutter's only darts club band, by which point they'd come under the influence of tea.
Yes.
Bob Dylan introduced them to tea, and they did admit to taking tea and enjoying it, and even biscuits. So what we're going to play you now is the song that was most influenced by tea from the Sergeant Rutter's only darts club band, which apparently, if you say it backwards, actually says Stig is dead.
Right.
Although it doesn't. Okay. This is Cheese and Onions.
That's the one. Every time. And yes, of course, well, I don't know. You're sort of tempted to try and explain these things for people who maybe don't know the original, which there are loads of.
Well, you can sort of nail it down and say, obviously, yeah, that's a day in the life. But also, where it comes in the Rutles, it actually comes while they're doing the Tragical History Tour period, which, as they said, was a weak idea in the first place. The story of 4 Oxford history dons on a walking tour of English tea shops.
Okay, so I'm amazed that neither Blur or Oasis have covered that. So absolutely perfect, wouldn't it?
It's just fantastic, isn't it? Shall I tell you some interesting trivia about the Rutles?
Please do.
Okay, the real Rutles included the people who were actually playing was Ricky Fattar, who ex for the Beach Boys, and John Halsey, who played Barrington Womble of No Fix Hairstyle.
He was a drummer in the Beach Boys, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
Played George Harrison
and John Halsey and. Paul McCartney, who was not a Rutles fan, produced I Am the Urban Spaceman, which was the first Bonzo Dog Doodah band record, of course, which had Neil Innes on it. Really? So it all kind of comes around, goes around. We said before that famously Innes never didn't make money out of the Rutles. So I have to say I never really got to the bottom of exactly what the situation is there. So everything I say there is A, allegedly, and B, if anyone actually knows what the situation is, please let me know, because the Rutles has become kind of one of these legends, what actually happened to all the cash. When the soundtrack CD was reissued in the 1990s, early 1990s, it sold more than when it was first issued. So it's definitely a kind of cult thing. It's grown bigger. And we said before that Innes was last seen working on a script for Ruttlemania, A Nasty Story, which was Ron Nasty after the Rutles. And what I did was, in an attempt to kind of sort of, rein all this stuff in, I started writing down my favourite lines from the Rutles.
Yeah.
Like the Rutles, the prefab four lads far from home and far from talented. But you realise that, there just isn't enough. I'm just going to give you just a couple of little things which really, pleased me. When the Rutles go away to the table tapping weekend in Bognor with Arthur Sultan, that while they're away there, they learn the terrible news about the departure of their manager, Leggy Mountbatten. And there's this something where it says that they suddenly are shocked to find out that, tired and despondent over the weekend and unable to raise any friends, Leggy had gone home and tragically accepted a teaching post in Australia. And they found out they can still get in touch with him through table tapping and, of course, postcards. Stig, meanwhile, has a very bad he disappears from the face of the earth for a year, and it turns out that he's not dead, but he's fallen into bed with Gertrude Strange, a large-breasted, biologically accommodating American girl whose father invented the limpet mine. And then their last album, because at the end of it, they're all suing each other, except for Stig, who mistakenly ends up suing himself. And there's this lovely line which says, in the midst of public bickering and legal wrangling, Let It Rock was released in 1970 simultaneously as a film, an album, and a lawsuit. Yeah, it's a gem, see it, enjoy it, learn it, love it.
I mean, there seems to be kind of no end to the interest in the Beatles, as we've seen now. It's like, not all the old fans, all sorts of people buying this new stuff. I mean, do you think, to get obviously, it's a stupid question, to get the full benefit of the Rutles, you need to know the Beatles story pretty well. But I mean, does it work if you don't?
I have absolutely no idea, because I've only ever seen it as I said, I'm not a huge Beatles fan anyway, so it's not like I know any more than just anybody who's, of my age. If you didn't know, like, Magical Mystery Tour, and you didn't know A Day in the Life and all that sort of stuff, then probably a lot of it would seem rather impenetrable. But I don't think it's as impenetrable as, for example, we were talking about this earlier on, Spinal Tap really only makes sense if you've ever actually been in a band. Yeah. If you've ever actually done that awful schlepping. I mean, I know Bono from U2 said that he couldn't watch Spinal Tap because it's just too close to the truth.
Yeah.
But, I think probably everyone has got just about enough knowledge. Anybody who's alive now, particularly with all this re-interest, has got enough knowledge of the Beatles' milestones to understand why the Rutles is incredible. Like I said, the worst thing about it is it's not seen enough. Right. You'd expect it to be televised every year, and it just isn't. And I don't quite understand. Maybe it's legal, maybe, I don't know, but it's a masterpiece.
And have we got copies to give away?
No, what we've got is the soundtrack CD, which we actually went out and bought because it's just come back out on import. This is 20 tracks. Right. This has got.
I thought you were going to say it was £20. No, my God, steady on.
It was £18. It's an import, yeah. So absolutely. So this is a very valuable item with all 20 tracks. And this has got everything. This has got Goose Stepmama, Blue Suede Schubert, which is fantastic. Ouch, Double Back Alley, and of course Piggy in the Midland, Cheese and Onion. So it's a gem.
Okay then, right. So we'll do that. And interestingly, to tie in with this, when the Rutles went to spiritual enlightenment, and instead of being the stuff about cannabis and everything, it was tea. In the last half hour of the programme, we've got a tea mix, which will tie in with that beautifully.
Fantastic.